Okay, we're going to go through quotes from the Holy Grail of Wisdom, quotes by me, Pete Rogers, in alphabetical order. The first person's Selye. He was an endocrinologist, did a lot of really good research on stress. Okay, so stress increases the hormones of cortisol and catecholamines, adrenaline and noradrenaline. So it's going to crank up your blood lipids. That's not good for your atherosclerotic health. It's going to crank up your blood glucose, so it has a diabetic effect. So being chronically stressed is bad. You need that during an acute physical stress. Being chased by a tiger in the dark's how you remember it. So you have more energy to climb a tree or something. In the event that you should bleed, the tiger scratches you, your blood's a little bit prothrombotic. You have an increase in clotting factors in your blood. So again, that's why chronic high psychological stress, and you get the same thing from drinking caffeine and from being sleep deprived. So a lot of people are sleep deprived, stressed out, and they drink a lot of caffeine. So they've made their blood more hyperlipidemic. They predispose themselves to diabetes, and their blood's more atherogenic, more prothrombotic. It's all not good. So you gotta, try to figure out some way to manage your stress, to get your sleep. A lot of times, being religious, having a clear-cut purpose in life makes you more resilient. Okay, so here's the quotes by Selye. Adopting the right attitude can convert a negative stress into a positive one. Okay? It is not stress that kills people. It is their reaction to it. Like sometimes, like when I'm being stressed out by something, somebody's treating me unfairly or something, if there's some standardization to the situation, I'll read a lot about it and I'll say to myself, well, this is an opportunity to learn about this, and I'll learn about it. Every stress leaves an indelible scar, and the organism pays for it, for its survival after a stressful situation by becoming a little older. Yeah, like I have a friend, he had an injury recently, a traumatic injury, and he said he felt like he aged 10 years, okay? So you want to avoid doing stupid stuff. I got a lot of friends that do crazy stuff. I got friends that jump out of airplanes. I got friends that go skiing all the time. To me, I think skiing's stupid. You zoom down a hill and you risk, having a major injury. For what? What do you get for it, Of course, they'll say that I'm boring, but, I'm like, man, I got to take a risk for a reason. I'll take it, but not for no reason. Okay, when Selye was asked what's the most stressful chronic, life setting situation for a person, he says to not have something to believe in. And I can kind of relate to that because I was really unhappy like in my medical school for a while when I couldn't figure out what I wanted to specialize in. I missed my girlfriend, and until I could figure out what I wanted to do, I just wasn't happy. I needed to have a sense I'm moving towards something positive rather than I was kind of like, man, I wasn't that thrilled with some parts of medical school. Okay, but later on when I figured out what I do, that I was happy and I was like, all systems go. All right, next quote by Selye. If you want to live a long life, focus on making contributions to others, on having meaningful projects that are exciting and that benefit others. Yeah, so you eventually, and I think, Jordan Peterson, even though he's a bit of a weasel, he did say it well, and I think it's true. It's the same thing. Ask yourself, what are my talents? What do I like doing? What are my opportunities? How much time do I have available? How much resources do I have? Friends, mentors, coaches, proteges, money, whatever it might be, ability to travel, whatever it might be. What's the best I could do? What's the best thing I could do that I want to do? And then do that. For me, I work all the time as a clinical doctor. I'm real busy. And I said to myself, I go on the internet and I see all these high-fat, phony BS artists, and I see McDougall sort of, holding down the fort, keeping the truth alive. And I said, yeah, I could do that. Somebody needs to do that. I'm the perfect guy to do that. And I said, as a matter of fact, other than McDougall, I could be the best doctor in the world. I'm going to do that. So, that was many, many years ago. And I went back and I reviewed all my biochemistry and I did tons and tons of reading to make sure that I really knew. Like McDougall said, don't even talk to me. Don't even debate me until you've read at least Kempner and Pritikin. Okay, so I read all the Kempner and Pritikin stuff because I wanted to be, legit, have that background knowledge for real. Okay, well, anyways, that made me happy because I have friends that tell me stuff like, this is a typical conversation I'll have with my friends. This is from about 10 years ago. I was writing a book and my friends, a couple of my guy friends, doctors, these are all doctors, they go, so Pete, are you going to make any money from this book? I go, no. And they go, is it going to help you get laid? I said, nope. They go, well, then why are you doing it? And I'm like, because it's a good book and I know that I learned a lot to write it and it'll help other people if they actually read it, even though I know hardly anybody's going to read it. And it made me feel good to do it. Okay, men, we don't have babies. So creating something, whatever it might be, a book, a movie, a video, whatever, it makes us happy. Okay? And like I said too, it's a weakness that I don't have any money or support, but it's also a strength. I don't have to lie to sell supplements or promote nonsense like all the high-fat phonies. So that enables me to tell the truth, and that's an advantage. So even though I'll be shadow banned and ostracized, I can still have the best channel. It's a little bit like the Colonel John Boyd when he said, look, in most situations in life, you're going to be forced to make a choice. You can either be somebody, which means rise within the system and be corrupt, or you can do something useful. Okay, and so I chose to do something useful. Tell the truth and become the best doctor in the world. So that's what I'm trying to do. And also, civilization is being destroyed. It's already, half destroyed, Western civilization. So I shall try to preserve Western civilization. That's a noble goal because it's the greatest civilization that's ever existed on the face of the earth by far. The only thing in the ballpark was the ancient Greeks, and Western Civ is a lot better than the ancient Greeks. Because the ancient Greeks, despite the fact that, yes, they were incredibly brilliant and did lots of wonderful things, they were also pretty brutal. Okay? And I think Western Civ showed that you can be good and great and creative and be nice. You don't have to be brutal. Have slaves and do all the stuff they did, like to the Melians, for example. Okay, continuing with Hans Selye. He says, you should pursue your highest attainable goal, but do not resist when the situation is in vain. The healthiest of all human attitudes is gratitude. Gratitude conserves the vital energies of a person more than any other attitude tested. Yeah, so when you go through something bad, you sort of just have to retreat into yourself, kind of keep it quiet, keep yourself, keep a low profile, and just try to get past your disappointment, your injury, your illness, whatever it might be, and be grateful for what you got. At least I know how to read. At least I get to be an American. At least I've got this ability in this area. At least when I get better, I'll have these opportunities. At least I have the few things that I have in terms of social relations or whatever it might be. Everybody, it's different for them as an individual. But being gratitude, it helps you. And being religious too, thank God, I appreciate you giving me this life and all that. All that stuff makes you stronger. And that's what you want. Okay, Hans Selye, last quote. To remain healthy, a man must have some goal. He must have some purpose in his life that he can respect and be proud to work for. Yeah, I think that's the case. Okay, so that's it for Hans Selye. The next one I got is Ignaz Semmelweis. And I'm not really going to give you any quotes. I'll just briefly mention him. I've talked about him in other videos. He's the Hungarian OB-GYN doctor who figured out that when the male physicians were going to do autopsies, they didn't wash their hand before they come deliver babies, and they spread infections to some of the women, and the mortality rate was much, much higher in the women who delivered babies with the doctors compared with the ones who delivered with the midwives. So he told them they should wash their hands, and he showed the data on it, and they got super pissed off at him, and he was a little bit of an arrogant guy, and he ended up not doing well. They screwed him over, institutionalized him, and actually bumped him off, okay? So it's dangerous to try to improve something in medicine, okay? Look at Nick Gonzalez, claims that he cured a bunch of cancer. Bye-bye, Nick. Gerson claims he cured a bunch of cancer. Bye-bye, Gerson. Okay, who knows what happened to McDougal? All right, Lucius Seneca, known as Seneca the Younger, or just as Seneca, was a Stoic philosopher. He was a tutor to Nero for years, but then he pissed off Nero. Nero forced him to commit suicide. Nero is one of the worst Roman emperors of all time. He's right up there with Caligula and Commodus. Okay, so anyways, Lucius Seneca was a Roman. He was a Stoic philosopher. And here's some of his quotes. He says, "Time is the greatest remedy for anger. He who receives a benefit with gratitude repays the first installment of it. When we teach, we learn." Yeah, so if you want to get good at anything, try to teach it. For example, like I wanted to become a great neuroradiologist. That's one of the things that I do. So I volunteered to give a whole bunch of neuroradiology teaching conferences. And I really learned a lot from doing that. I volunteered when I was a young guy to teach neuroanatomy review courses, because then I became a master in neuroanatomy. And I did a whole bunch of tutoring when I was in med school and during other times of my life. And it helped me to learn better. Okay, associate with people who will improve you, if you can find them. And if you can't find them, then read their books or watch their YouTube videos. Here's a good one. While we wait for life, life passes. And I heard another version of it. I don't know who made this quote, but it's life is what happens to you when you're making your plans. Okay. Then the next quote actually is a Seneca quote. Seneca says, if you don't know, then ask. You'll be a fool for a moment, but a wise man for the rest of your life. Okay, that's good. And then he says, it is part of the treatment to want to be treated. Yeah, and Dr. Day had that experience as well. Dr. Day, she just asked the patient, do you want to get better? And then doctor said, well, you have to do this, okay? And the patient starts saying, no, I'm not going to do that. She says, okay, well, then you don't really want to get better. Okay, don't waste my time. Go away. Get out of here. Because 95% of patients, they don't want to actually make a significant change in their diet and lifestyle. It's like, what do you want me to do? Give you a magic pill? Do a rain dance? Get the hell out of here. Okay, don't waste my time, you lazy, stupid dumbass. Okay, have fun suffering. Okay, most patients don't get better. Think about it. What percent actually go low-fat, vegan, no oil? Less than 1%. The rest of them all crash and burn. This is the cure rate for hypertension and diabetes and coronary arteries with drugs is 0%. Okay, it's like the sign over hell in Dante's Divine Comedy, Inferno. It says, "Abandon hope, all ye who enter." Okay, Seneca's next quote: "The path of improvement is slow, but the road to ruin is rapid." Yeah, you slowly improve, but if you do bad things, you can crash and burn fast. Excellence withers without an adversary. Yeah, you should join competitions if you can. It's a rough road that leads to greatness. Yeah, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Okay, next guy we're going to do is Peter Senge. He's a real smart guy. He was a graduate at MIT. I don't remember if he was MIT or Caltech, but one of those sort of math genius type places. He became a business consultant. He wrote a couple books. One of them was called The Fifth Discipline. And here's his quotes. Over the long run, superior performance depends on superior learning. Yep, it's a marathon. Continuous self-improvement. Every day you're either getting a little better or you're getting a little worse. So you have to make an effort to learn something so you get a little better. The only sustainable competitive advantage of an organization is its ability to learn faster than its competition. Through learning, we recreate ourselves. Through learning, we extend our capacity to create, to be part of the generative process of life. Yeah, so basically, if you want to be a writer, you have to read a lot. And if you don't want to read a lot, then you're not going to be a good writer. It's just a fact, okay? If you want to be a good writer about medical stuff, I like Dr. McDougall's quote. Dr. McDougall's quote said, I like reading nutrition journals, and I realized that the only thing I had to do to become a nutrition expert was read nutrition articles, and have conversations with patients. So I'm happy to do that. It comes naturally to me, so why not? Okay, the most effective people are those who can hold their vision while remaining committed to seeing the current reality clearly. Yeah, and that would remind me, I'll want to write a book. I got 4 books written in my head, but I can't write them because I'm so busy doing clinical work. Okay, at night I come home and I make a couple of videos. I joke, as soon as I come home at night, it's shit, shower, shave, showtime, okay? And, I make a couple of videos, eat dinner, go back to bed, rinse and repeat the next day. But I like it when I get a day off because then I can devote it to working on a book. And that's what I really wanted to do. I originally wanted to be a writer. I started making YouTube videos because, my books are anonymous practically. Nobody knows they exist until I made a couple of videos. And even then, I'm totally shadow banned and ostracized. But I like a book because a book is more permanent. You write a book, you own it. Versus on the internet, all your videos can be deleted tomorrow. Who the hell knows? I keep extra copies of them on several hard drives, but who the hell knows? It could all be deleted. By the way, if you want to make sure that you don't lose track of me in case I ever get bumped, off this YouTube or anything, I will then go to other video channels, and you can just send me an email saying you want to be on my newsletter, or you just want me to keep in mind if I ever have to go somewhere else to a different video channel if they boot me out of here. Let's see. Okay, Peter Senge's next quote. All right. He says, how do you develop your intent? You become extremely clear about what it is that you want to do. Why is it that you want to do that? How is it a reflection of your values? How does it relate to your purpose in life? What is it that you want to accomplish? Then you just refine your intent, and once you've refined your intent, there's little else you have to do. The broadcast of intention goes out, and it makes it happen. Your role is to remain keenly aware, patiently expectant, and open to all possibilities. So that'd be like me writing a book. I say to myself, well, gee, somebody really needs to write a book about chronic fatigue syndrome. And then I'll say, why do I think I need to do this? I'll write out all the reasons. And I'll say, why do I think I have something unique to contribute? I'll write out all the contributions. This is what the guys at Stanford are doing. This is what the guys at Harvard are doing. This is what the Germans are doing. This is what the guys in Alabama are doing. And then I'll say, do I have anything else to add? And I'll go, yes, I do have something to add, and here's why. And I'll make a list of all the things I have to add. Then I'll make a mind map. And I'll go, okay, that's exactly what I need to do. And kind of use the scholasticism method. Say, what is the goal? To improve outcomes in chronic fatigue patients. Okay, what's already been done? Okay, what can I add, and then what I can add, and that's pretty much the book. Okay, so that's pretty simple to do. So it's all clear. It just is a question of having a couple days off and then getting all the material down. And what I'll usually do is I'll give a video talk first, because then I'll organize everything in the video talk, and then when I'm on my day off, I'm just transposing the material from my videos to the books. So I can write really fast. I can write 60 pages in a day, because I've already figured everything out in terms of how to organize it, what order to put in, what keep, what to not keep. Then I just have to put it down on paper. Okay, Peter Senge continues. In dialogue, people gain insights that simply could not be achieved individually. Yeah, it's good to have conversations about stuff. Knowledge is constructed, not transferred. Yeah, the person has to sort of build it up in their mind's eye in a way. They have to connect it to what they already know. So until they can do that, you have to help them to do that if they're really going to learn it. Mental models determine what we can see. Yeah, like as soon as you realize that atherosclerosis is a blood clot, then you know anything that causes blood clotting causes atherosclerosis. So that mental model enables you to conceptualize it in a way that's memorable for life easily. Okay, well, that's it for today. Hope you found those helpful, those quotes.